Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Imagine standing in a crowd of thousands. The lights fade, the noise stops, and in the middle of it all, two souls connect. No words, no cameras, just presence. Today, we're revealing the fan-recorded moment that left the entire fandom in tears, because sometimes loyalty is louder than applause, and Xiao Zhan just proved it in a way no one expected. Paris has always had a way of pausing time. The city's lights seem to hold memories. The air feels heavier with meaning. And when Fashion Week arrives, the world doesn't just watch. It holds its breath. But on one particular evening during Chanel's Paris Fashion Week 2025, something extraordinary happened. It wasn't the gowns, the grandeur, or the glitter. It was a moment so still, so intimate, that even amidst the chaos of flashing cameras and echoing heels, everything stopped, because Wong Iba stepped out of the car. He didn't rush. He didn't pose. There was no need to perform. Clad in a monochrome Chanel suit, tailored to perfection, he walked as if the street were an extension of his soul, measured, calm, complete. The simplicity of his look made every detail profound. His brooch, delicately placed on his chest, didn't scream for attention. Instead, it whispered elegance. But what captivated the crowd wasn't what he wore. It was how he wore it. With every step, Wong Iba seemed to bend the air around him, inviting the world to look not through the lens of trend, but through the lens of presence. In that moment, fashion no longer meant fabric, it meant identity. He wasn't merely attending a fashion show. He was redefining what it means to belong. His presence was not just Chinese. It wasn't just Asian. It was human, global, timeless. The crowd, often loud and restless, went quiet. People looked up from their screens. Even the most jaded reporters stood still. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was reverence. And yet, the real story was only beginning. Beyond the flashes, beyond the crowd's anticipation, something even more personal waited in the shadows. A silent bond that would soon surface, unannounced, to make the night unforgettable. But for now, in that fleeting walk from car to door, Wang Yibo didn't just arrive, he made history pause to watch him pass. Of all the flashes, angles, and curated camera shots that flooded social media that night, none of them captured what truly mattered. The official photographs told a story of poise, fashion, and celebrity. But what they missed was the quiet gravity of a moment not meant for headlines. It came from the crowd, from the lens of a fan's shaky phone. But somehow, it carried more truth than any professional frame. In that clip, rough around the edges yet achingly real, the world saw something raw. A fleeting second that felt like the turning point of a film, not a fashion event. As Wong Iba exited the Chanel venue under soft lights and the gentle murmur of admiration, his steps remained as steady as they had been when he arrived. There was grace in his pace, a certainty in his silence. But then something shifted, his eyes flicked briefly to the side. For those unaware, it was just a glance. But for those who've followed his story, who've watched the rise, the hardships, the quiet resilience, that glance meant everything. Because in the background, almost hidden, was a figure so familiar, so deliberately quiet, it seemed like he had no intention of being noticed. Xiao Zhan stood in the shadows. No entourage, no photographers trailing him, no spotlight waiting to find him. He didn't attend the show. He didn't walk the carpet. He was simply there. That kind of presence, the kind that asks for nothing yet gives everything, rarely makes headlines. But when Iba's gaze met his, even for a fraction of a second, something unspoken passed between them. And for fans, it was enough. Enough to stir emotion. Enough to stir memory. People often ask what loyalty looks like in an industry built on image and ambition. That night, it looked like standing in the cold for someone else, unseen. It looked like choosing presence over publicity. That fan's video didn't need perfect lighting or studio editing. It needed only truth. And in that half second of recognition, caught between one breath and the next, the world was reminded. Not everything meaningful needs a microphone. Sometimes what matters most is what almost goes unnoticed. In the world of fame, loyalty is often packaged for the public, broadcast in gestures that sparkle under spotlights or posted in captions carefully written for effect. It's easy to mistake visibility for sincerity when everything is filtered through the lens of image. But on that night in Paris, loyalty revealed itself in a form that was neither loud nor rehearsed. It came not with spectacle, but with stillness. Xiao Zhan's presence wasn't part of the show. He wasn't listed on any guest lineup, and no publicist announced his arrival. He didn't come to be seen. He came to see, and that made all the difference. What does it mean to show up for someone when the cameras aren't rolling, when applause isn't guaranteed? What does loyalty look like when it's not rewarded with attention, but simply exists because it matters? Xiao Zhan answered those questions without ever saying a word. He stood in the background, unnoticed by most, but unwavering in presence. That is not passive support, it is intentional love. In a culture driven by curated narratives, it takes quiet courage to remain real. And that night, Xiao Zhan was as real as it gets. There's something profoundly human about being there for someone without needing credit. It speaks to a kind of bond that outlives trends and transcends fame. This isn't the loyalty that makes headlines. It's the loyalty that makes meaning. The kind you don't measure in gestures, but in silence. In choosing to be close, even if it means being invisible. In standing still while someone else stands in the light, not out of duty, but out of devotion. For their fans, this was more than a touching reunion. It was a reflection of something everyone longs for. To be supported not when it's easy, but when it's real. That subtle glance, that shared knowing between Wong Iba and Xiao Zhan, carried a lifetime of unspoken understanding. In a world trained to chase noise, they chose stillness. In an industry built on moments, they gave us something timeless. And in that, they redefined loyalty not as performance but as presence. The world didn't need a press release to understand what had happened that night. It only took seconds. One fan-shot clip, a brief exchange of glances, a quiet figure in the background, for the internet to ignite. But what followed wasn't just trending hashtags or viral comments. It was a collective emotional reaction that transcended geography, language, and even fandom. From Seoul to Tokyo, from Bangkok to Toronto, and across cities in Europe and the Americas, something deeper stirred in people's hearts. Because what they had witnessed was not a staged moment or a PR highlight. It was something real. And in today's hyper-curated world, that's a rarity. On platforms like Twitter, Weibo, and TikTok, users shared their thoughts not with screaming excitement, but with a kind of reverence. Comments flooded in from fans who had followed these two men for years. Some moved to tears, others quietly grateful. They didn't just see a celebrity encounter. They saw a reunion of spirits, a wordless testament to a connection that had endured time, distance, and silence. Artists from across cultures even began posting sketches and animations to honor the moment, depicting Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan not as idols, but as symbols of something universal: trust, respect, and lasting affection. What surprised many wasn't the scale of the reaction, but the emotional depth of it. This wasn't about fashion anymore. It wasn't about who wore what or who sat where. It became a conversation about the kind of relationships that endure in the face of change. Ones that are tested and yet remain. In the days that followed, articles appeared not just in entertainment columns, but in lifestyle and opinion pieces. Thoughtful essays explored the meaning of loyalty in modern fame, and how this moment, small and almost missed, reminded us of the quiet beauty in showing up for someone without an agenda. The global reaction didn't erupt because of drama, scandal, or spectacle. It was born from subtlety, and perhaps that's what made it so powerful. Because in the noise of the digital age, when everything is loud and fast, it was silence that echoed the loudest. A single glance, a quiet figure in the background, and millions of hearts moved. Not because they were told to feel something, but because they simply did. Wong Iba redefined fashion with elegance. Xiao Zhan redefined loyalty with silence. Together, without even speaking, they reminded us, true support doesn't need the front row. Real connection doesn't need an announcement. And love, whether friendship or something deeper, doesn't always need words to be real. An exclusive voice note from a staff member backstage surfaced anonymously. After the show, Iba paused at the exit, turned, and nodded gently. It wasn't part of the choreography. He just did it. Was it a signal? A thank you? Only he knows. But for fans, it was everything. Speech balloon closing message. In a world full of noise, two men said nothing and created a memory the world will never forget. If this moment moved you, you're not alone. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments are the ones whispered in silence. Thank you for watching this special episode on Star Watch Now. Your home for stories that move the heart, not just the algorithm. If you felt inspired, surprised, or simply seen, backhand index pointing right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you real stories, raw emotions, and timeless moments from stars who shine beyond the spotlight. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the quiet magic the world might overlook. And remember, sometimes the loudest love is silent. See you in the next episode.